The earth was quiet. For the first time in centuries, it felt like the world had finally found a fragile kind of peace. Cities that once lay in ruins now hummed with life, and people moved freely through streets that were bright with clean energy and soft sunlight. Nature was coming back too. Forests had grown thick again, rivers ran clear, and oceans sparkled with life. Humans had rebuilt themselves, not only in stone and steel, but in spirit. The scars of old wars were still there, hidden in monuments and in stories passed down through families, but people had learned to look forward instead of backward. Yet, even in this time of peace, some knew that the calm was fragile. They were the few who remembered what the world had once been capable of, what humans had once held in their hands but chose not to use. The weapons of old wars were not fully destroyed. Some were carefully buried deep underground or hidden under oceans and deserts. Humanity had promised itself and the rest of the world that these things would never be used again. And so the planet rested, outwardly calm, yet carrying a quiet, unspoken warning deep inside. Far beyond the blue skies and white clouds, the galaxy had been watching. Civilizations that spanned light years had observed Earth for decades. They saw a small planet that had destroyed itself more than once, and they wondered what humans would do next. Some admired Earth's resilience. Others looked down on its inhabitants, believing them weak and naive. The Galactic Council, a group of civilizations that acted as both rulers and advisors across the stars, had even reached out to Earth once. Their message was polite, almost gentle. "We wish to guide you. We can help you reach the stars." Earth had agreed to their guidance, at least outwardly. Leaders from around the globe spoke of cooperation and friendship. Humans welcomed the visitors with careful optimism. Scientists and diplomats worked with alien advisors, learning small pieces of knowledge from them. But there were whispers, soft but persistent, among those who had seen too much. Humans were not as weak as the aliens believed. Humans had survived plagues, wars, and disasters that had destroyed other civilizations. Humanity's strength was not in machines or weapons alone. It was in patience, in cunning, and in an unyielding will to survive. Few people knew the truth, and even fewer understood the power Earth carried silently. It was a legacy from a time long past, a secret project buried beneath mountains and oceans, designed not for conquest but for survival. This project had been kept hidden from the world, even from most governments. Only a handful of leaders and scientists knew that the planet itself could rise to defend its people. It was a quiet power, a promise that if the time ever came, humanity could respond in a way the galaxy could not ignore. The ordinary people of Earth went about their daily lives, unaware of the invisible eyes watching them. Children laughed in schoolyards. Markets buzzed with color and sound, and families shared meals at dusk. Life had grown simple, yet beautiful. The world outside the cities was thriving too. Farmers worked land that had once been barren. Fishermen cast nets into oceans teeming with fish. Scientists explored forests and mountains, rediscovering plants and animals thought lost. Earth had become a place of quiet hope, but hope is often mistaken for weakness, and the galaxy did not see it as strength. The Council saw Earth's restraint and patience and thought, they are holding nothing back because they cannot. They misread the humans' caution for fear, their wisdom for ignorance. The humans knew the truth. Patience was a weapon in itself. Humanity's history had been written in survival. Every time they had been threatened, every time their homes had been destroyed, they had adapted, endured, and grown stronger. And now, the galaxy had chosen to ignore these lessons. Despite this, Earth continued to engage with the alien civilizations, openly. Trade agreements were made, cultural exchanges flourished, and alien technology was studied carefully. Humans remained humble in appearance, polite in conversation, and cautious in action. They listened and learned, but they never revealed the depth of their potential. Sometimes, in private, older leaders would remind their younger colleagues, "They do not understand us, they never will until they are forced to." This tension was subtle at first. Small incidents occurred that humans quietly noted. Alien researchers occasionally tried to push boundaries, probing the planet's defenses, testing the limits of human patience. They were curious, sometimes intrusive, but humans allowed it, responding with careful diplomacy. Behind closed doors, strategists studied every encounter, every message, and every observation the aliens had sent. They prepared not for war, but for protection. Humanity had no desire to fight. They only desired respect and space to live freely. At night, when the city slept and the lights dimmed, a few humans would stand on hills, mountains, or coastlines gazing up at the stars. They felt a strange mixture of wonder and caution. The universe was vast, filled with civilizations that were unimaginably advanced, yet these humans understood something that the stars did not. Survival is not measured by power alone. It is measured by endurance, by the choices made when every option seems impossible, and by the will to rise again when all hope seems lost. In secret, the core of Project Atlas continued its work. Deep beneath the earth, in chambers untouched by humans for generations, machines hummed with life. They connected to the planet's magnetic fields, to the energy that pulsed through the earth itself. The scientists who maintained it understood the responsibility they carried. One wrong activation could have catastrophic results, yet they also knew it was never meant to be used unless humanity was threatened. It was not a weapon for conquest. It was a promise. If the world were endangered, Earth would respond in a way no one could ignore. Meanwhile, life on the surface moved forward. Children grew up learning about the galaxy through books, stories, and occasional visits from alien educators. People began to dream of traveling to the stars themselves. But, always with humility and caution, humanity had learned to value balance between technology and nature, between power and restraint, between survival and ethics. And yet beneath this calm, something ancient and powerful waited, something that would awaken if the galaxy ever tested the patience of the planet itself. For now, Earth was peaceful. The humans continued to teach, to build, to explore, and to love. They laughed in streets, danced at festivals, and built homes that would last generations. Yet the leaders never forgot. Every diplomatic meeting, every treaty, every interaction with the Council was carefully watched, carefully weighed. Humans were patient, yes, but they were not naive. And in the silence of the oceans, in the secret halls beneath mountains, and in the circuits of hidden machines, a quiet warning waited for the day it would be needed. That day would not come soon. But when it did, the galaxy would understand something it had never comprehended. Humanity's patience was not weakness, and Earth's silence was not ignorance. It was a warning. And humanity had always kept its promises. In the end, the people of Earth carried on, living ordinary lives while extraordinary power slept beneath their feet. No one could have guessed what was coming, and yet every person, every family, every scientist, and every leader played a part in holding the planet together, quietly, patiently, waiting for a day when the galaxy would finally learn to respect them, not out of fear, but because it had no other choice. The galaxy had begun to grow impatient. What had seemed like curiosity and admiration toward Earth slowly shifted into frustration and arrogance. The Galactic Council, the ruling body of distant civilizations, had been watching humanity for decades. From their perspective, humans had proven themselves interesting but unpredictable, and unpredictability was something they found uncomfortable. They had offered guidance, technology, and advice, but they could not understand why humans resisted. Total control. To the Council, it seemed obvious. Humans were weak. They had survived wars and disasters, yes, but only through stubborn luck and temporary alliances. Their technology was primitive compared to the fleets that patrolled the stars. Their diplomacy was cautious, hesitant, and slow. They followed rules, respected treaties, and avoided unnecessary conflict. The Council mistook all of this for weakness. They assumed that humans were harmless, incapable of significant action beyond their little planet. Earth's leaders tried to show patience. They worked with alien advisors, attended diplomatic meetings, and studied new technologies. They even shared some discoveries openly, hoping to build trust. But behind their calm exterior, humans were carefully observing the council as well. Every move, every decision, every subtle gesture was catalogued and analyzed. Humans were learning the ways of the galaxy without exposing their full strength. They were teaching themselves patience and control, lessons that had kept them alive for centuries. Some humans argued that the council should be challenged openly. They wanted to prove to the galaxy that Earth was not weak, that humanity's history of survival and ingenuity demanded respect. Others warned that confrontation would lead to disaster. The world remembered too well the chaos of past wars, and no one wanted to risk another global catastrophe. The debate was constant, but in quiet rooms behind closed doors, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would wait. They would not reveal their full potential unless provoked. And the council did not wait long. Slowly, subtle pressures began to appear. Trade agreements were twisted to favor the council, technology shared with humans was limited in scope, and restrictions were placed on research. Humans found themselves constrained, watched at every step. At first it seemed small, manageable. Humans accepted these limitations with careful diplomacy, trying to maintain peaceful relations. But it was clear that the council believed Earth was theirs to control, and that belief was growing bolder by the year. For ordinary people, life continued almost normally. Cities thrived, science advanced, and families lived free from the worry of war. But beneath this normalcy, the tension grew. Scientists and strategists worked in hidden facilities, continuing the development of Project Atlas, a secret system buried deep within the planet. This project was Earth's insurance, a power built not for conquest but for survival. Every new restriction from the council, every act of arrogance, was carefully noted. Humans did not panic. They prepared. One day, a subtle provocation occurred that would have gone unnoticed by the casual observer. An alien ship docked in orbit above the Pacific Research Zone, claiming to deliver new materials. In reality, the materials were incomplete, missing critical components deliberately withheld by the council. The scientists on Earth noticed immediately. This was no accident. It was a test, a way to see how humans would respond when deprived of what they needed. Instead of anger, the response was quiet. Humans adapted, finding alternative solutions and improvising with what they had. They never complained openly. They never escalated. But the lesson was not lost on the council. Humans were clever, persistent, and resourceful. Even so, the council still believed that humanity could be guided, controlled, and eventually bent to their will. Years passed, and the council's arrogance deepened. They began to take more direct action, sending observers to monitor humans closely. They demanded reports, created regulations, and subtly threatened sanctions if Earth did not comply fully with their directives. But humans had learned from history. They did not act out of anger or pride. They acted with caution, intelligence, and patience. Every decision was measured, every action planned. It was a quiet resistance, invisible to most of the galaxy, but it was there. In one of the secret chambers deep below the Earth's surface, the Project Atlas system hummed quietly. It connected to the planet's magnetic fields, converting energy in ways the Council could not imagine. It was not yet active, but it was ready. Scientists maintained it meticulously, running simulations and monitoring every line of code. They knew that one day, if the Council overstepped, this system would awaken. When it did, the galaxy would finally see that Earth had never been weak. It had only been patient. On the surface, humans went about their lives with resilience and optimism. Farmers worked lands that were carefully restored. Fishermen cast nets into oceans full of life, and families shared meals and laughter. Cities thrived with new technologies, yet people did not rely on machines alone. Communities were strong because humans worked together, supported one another, and valued compassion above all else. It was this strength, invisible to the Council, that made Earth formidable. Yet not everyone trusted the calm. Some humans warned that the Council's arrogance could provoke a conflict no one wanted. Their fears were not unfounded. The galaxy had a long memory of civilizations falling to internal power struggles, and the Council's history was filled with examples of those who had resisted and suffered. Earth had survived similar pressures before, but each generation remembered that survival was never guaranteed. Patience was a choice, and the choice required constant vigilance. Meanwhile, the Council's arrogance became more visible. They began openly questioning Earth's capabilities in public forums, suggesting that humans were primitive, inexperienced, and unworthy of the knowledge shared with them. Earth's diplomats smiled politely, made measured responses, and continued their work. Behind the scenes, the leaders spoke in hushed tones, emphasizing that the Council would not fully understand humanity until forced to. "They cannot see what we carry," one strategist said quietly, "and they will learn whether they like it or not." Despite the growing tension, humans continued to teach, to explore, and to learn. Scientists uncovered ancient knowledge buried in the Earth's crust, studied the mysteries of the oceans, and mapped the stars with a level of precision even the aliens envied. Humanity did not seek conflict. They sought understanding. They wished to coexist, to share knowledge, and to build a galaxy where life could flourish. But the Council's arrogance blinded them to this truth. And so, the stage was set. A silent struggle existed beneath the surface of everyday life. Humans waited, prepared, and observed. The Council grew bolder, unaware that patience was not weakness. Every treaty, every negotiation, every meeting carried layers of strategy that only a few humans truly understood. It was a delicate balance. One wrong step from the Council could awaken forces they could not control. Ordinary people remained, unaware of the depth of these tensions. Children played in fields and streets, dreaming of flying to distant stars. Families shared laughter over evening meals. Scientists worked tirelessly, creating solutions that would benefit all humanity. Artists painted, musicians played, and the world carried on. Yet beneath the surface, the heartbeat of the planet itself seemed to pulse with quiet strength, waiting for the moment when patience would be replaced by action. At night, when the stars shone brightly in the sky, humans often wondered about the vast civilizations watching from afar. They felt curiosity, fear, and determination in equal measure. They had seen the galaxy's beauty and its danger. They had learned to respect life, both their own and that of others. And they had learned that true strength was not in the size of fleets or the power of weapons, but in the ability to endure, adapt, and protect what mattered most. The Council continued to make mistakes, underestimating humans at every turn. They assumed that because Earth had never acted aggressively, it was weak. They did not see the careful preparation, the hidden technologies, and the unyielding will of humanity. Every rule they imposed, every subtle threat, only strengthened Earth's resolve. Humans knew that power was most effective when it remained controlled, hidden, and ready for the moment it was truly needed. Years turned into decades, and the Council grew frustrated. They began to demand more from humans: resources, compliance, and obedience. Humans complied outwardly, but in private, the leaders continued their preparations. Project Atlas remained ready, humming quietly beneath the surface, connected to the Earth itself. Its energy was untapped, but it waited patiently like the planet itself, ready for the day when the Council's arrogance would finally meet reality. Through all this, humanity remained human. They laughed, they loved, they taught, and they learned. They remembered history and honored life. They resisted not with violence, but with intelligence and patience. And as they continued their quiet struggle, they knew the truth. Strength does not always announce itself. Sometimes it waits quietly, invisibly, until the moment the world must finally understand. And so, Earth continued to breathe. Life flourished on the surface, while hidden forces waited below. The galaxy watched, unaware that the patience of humans was not ignorance and the calm of Earth was not weakness. One day the calm that had settled over Earth for decades, was about to be broken. What had once been subtle pressures and quiet arrogance from the Galactic Council was now becoming more visible, more deliberate, and far more dangerous. Humans had prepared, for years, But nothing could completely erase the shock of knowing that the galaxy might finally test the patience they had cultivated for generations. It began with a single incident, almost unnoticeable at first. A large transport ship, filled with rare energy crystals harvested from a hidden facility deep in the Pacific, was scheduled to leave Earth orbit. It was meant to be a peaceful transfer, part of a trade agreement carefully monitored by both humans and alien advisors. But when the tracking data came in, scientists noticed something alarming. The ship never made it to its destination. At first, there was disbelief. The satellites showed no sign of an attack. The ship had simply vanished. Communication systems picked up nothing. It was as if the vessel had been swallowed by the void itself. The Galactic Council immediately accused humans of sabotage, claiming that the planet had interfered with the delivery. Diplomats scrambled to explain, to deny any wrongdoing, but the Council would not listen. Their arrogance had blinded them to the truth. They assumed humans could never have the means to hide something so effectively. In reality, the disappearance of the ship was no accident. Deep beneath the Earth's oceans, in a hidden facility that few humans even knew existed, Project Atlas had quietly activated a portion of its systems. It was not a weapon designed to destroy life, but it could manipulate energy in ways that were invisible and unstoppable. The ship had entered a zone controlled by the system, and it had simply ceased to exist in the way the aliens understood reality. To the Council, it appeared as though humans had struck for the first time, but nothing on the surface had changed. The oceans remained calm, cities hummed with normal life, and people went about their daily routines unaware that the galaxy's arrogance had just met a hidden power they could not comprehend. Back on the surface, humans were calm but alert. Leaders convened emergency meetings not out of fear, but to monitor the situation. The goal was never to attack or provoke the Council, but to ensure that Earth could defend itself if the aliens escalated further. Scientists explained what had happened, how the energy systems had quietly shifted, and how Project Atlas had successfully protected the planet without causing mass destruction. It was a delicate balance. One wrong move and the system could have caused catastrophic results, but the humans controlling it had acted with precision and care. The Council's reaction was swift and chaotic. Reports of the missing ship spread through their communication networks, causing confusion and fear. Their fleets were mobilized, fleets that had once traveled with confidence now moving cautiously, unsure of what had happened. Observers from multiple civilizations began questioning each other. Had humans suddenly developed hidden technology? Were they stronger than anyone had thought? The arrogance that had defined the Council for so long began to crack, replaced with uncertainty and growing fear. Meanwhile, humans on Earth continued their lives as if nothing had changed. Markets remained busy, children played in the streets, and families gathered in homes that had been carefully rebuilt over decades. Scientists and strategists worked quietly, analyzing every potential move by the Council and preparing responses that could be deployed instantly if needed. Project Atlas hummed beneath the surface, ready to expand its influence if necessary, but controlled with careful precision. Humanity had never sought conflict, but it had always known how to survive it. In the weeks that followed, the Council sent delegations to demand explanations. Their messages were filled with accusations, warnings, and threats. Yet Earth's diplomats responded with calm authority. They denied sabotage, offered alternative explanations, and maintained an outwardly peaceful demeanor. Behind closed doors, however, the leaders of Earth were preparing contingency plans that reached far beyond what the Council could imagine. Every response was measured, every message crafted to buy time, while keeping the planet safe. As tension grew, ordinary humans remained unaware of the scale of what was happening. Teachers continued their lessons, doctors cared for patients, and farmers tended to their fields. Life on the surface continued, a delicate illusion of normalcy. Yet even in daily life, subtle signs of preparation were visible. Military exercises became more strategic, emergency response drills more precise, and scientific research focused increasingly on understanding the energy hidden within the planet itself. Humanity was ready, even if the galaxy did not realize. The first open provocation came when the Council dispatched a fleet to orbit Earth, claiming it was for inspection and protection. The ships were massive, far larger than anything humans had encountered before. Their presence was intended to intimidate, to show that the Council still controlled the galaxy. Humans did not panic. Instead, they observed, calculated, and responded in ways that were careful, restrained, and intelligent. Project Atlas extended its influence invisibly, monitoring every ship, every signal, and every potential threat. For the first time, some aliens began to sense the depth of human capability. They noticed that despite the Council's show of force, humans remained calm, efficient, and strategically organized. The Council, however, was too blinded by arrogance to accept this truth. They assumed humans were bluffing, that the calm was weakness, and that any escalation would be easily controlled. They did not see the layers of preparation, the hidden systems, or the centuries of patience that had led to this moment. Tension escalated further when one of the Council's ships attempted to approach Earth's secret energy facility. It did not return. Sensors showed that it had entered a zone of energy manipulation that humans had carefully controlled, and it was effectively neutralized without harm to the planet or its inhabitants. This was humanity's first visible demonstration of capability, yet it was subtle enough that the surface remained untouched. It was not destruction, it was warning. The Council began to realize that Earth had capabilities far beyond what they had imagined, but they still underestimated the humans' strategic patience. Humanity's restraint amazed the galaxy. Instead of retaliating openly, humans continued to act with careful planning, preserving life while asserting control. Project Atlas was a system designed for protection, not aggression, and every decision made by its operators reflected humanity's values: patience, intelligence, and the preservation of life. Scientists, engineers, and leaders all worked together, forming a network of decision-making that was faster and more precise than anything the Council could anticipate. On Earth, life continued in parallel to these cosmic tensions. Children laughed, families shared meals, and cities thrived. People were unaware of the power humming beneath their feet, the secret systems protecting them from forces they could not see. And yet, in quiet moments, the leaders of humanity reminded themselves of what was at stake. "We have always survived," one said, "not by force but by careful patience. That patience will protect us now." Over time, the Council grew increasingly frustrated. Their arrogance, once absolute, was now shaken by events they could not explain. Fleets moved cautiously, orders were repeated and double-checked, and delegates whispered nervously about what humans were capable of. Even among themselves, the aliens began to argue. Some believed humanity must be controlled at all costs. Others warned that any attack could trigger consequences the galaxy could not handle. Humans, meanwhile, remained united. Despite centuries of small disagreements and conflicts on their own planet, they presented a single, focused front. Diplomats, scientists, and strategists worked as one. Even as the Council's fleets loomed in orbit, humans never gave in to fear. They had learned to survive everything the galaxy could throw at them, and they understood that the first mistake from the Council could be the last. At night, when cities glowed softly and families slept, the planet itself seemed to pulse with quiet strength. Project Atlas extended its reach invisibly, monitoring energy patterns, potential threats, and environmental stability. The planet was ready. Humans had built a network of resilience, patience, and protection that was invisible to the galaxy, but undeniable in its effect. And so, the first real confrontation passed without bloodshed. No human life was lost, no city destroyed. The Council, shaken but unwilling to admit defeat, withdrew temporarily to reassess. Humans returned to their routines, quietly monitoring developments and maintaining readiness. Yet everyone knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had ignored humanity's warnings for too long. The stage was set for a reckoning, one that would test patience, intelligence, and restraint in ways no one had imagined. The ordinary people of Earth, meanwhile, remained unaware of the storm brewing beyond their skies. They continued to work, love, and live, trusting their leaders to protect them. And the planet, silent and patient, held its secret power, ready to awaken if the arrogance of the galaxy crossed the line humanity had carefully drawn. For now, Earth waited. The galaxy had learned a small but important truth. Humans were not weak, and their patience was not ignorance. One day the Council would see the full extent of what Earth was capable of. And when that day came, the calm that Earth had maintained for centuries was about to be broken in a way that would forever change the galaxy's understanding of humanity. The Council's arrogance had grown so strong that they believed they could push boundaries without consequence. They did not know that the planet they had underestimated had long prepared for this moment. Humanity's patience had limits, and Project Atlas, the silent guardian beneath the surface, was ready to awaken. It began quietly. Scientists and strategists noticed subtle changes in the energy patterns around the planet. Signals from satellites and deep space monitors indicated that alien fleets were preparing for a show of force. Their movements were deliberate, intended to intimidate and coerce. But humans were not surprised. They had anticipated such arrogance. They had trained, calculated, and planned for decades to handle this exact scenario. The first steps of Earth's response were subtle, invisible to the outside world, yet deliberate and precise. Ordinary life continued above. Children ran through city streets laughing and playing, while families cooked meals and celebrated small victories of daily life. Schools continued to teach science, history, and art, unaware of the tension brewing above and beneath them. People went about their lives trusting in the leaders who had quietly prepared for this moment. The contrast between everyday life and the cosmic chess game unfolding beyond their awareness was striking. Humanity had learned to balance normalcy with vigilance. As the alien fleet moved closer, Earth's leaders gave the order to activate Project Atlas. Not fully, not destructively, but enough to make the first warning clear. Deep below the surface, energy systems pulsed to life, drawing on the planet's magnetic core and redistributing it through layers of carefully engineered technology. Machines hummed, circuits glowed, and forces that had lain dormant for centuries began to shift. To the humans controlling it, the activation was like breathing life into a sleeping giant. It was precise, calculated, and fully controlled. The Council's fleet approached in confidence, unaware of the invisible defenses now being deployed. Satellites flickered out of contact, some disintegrating silently as they passed through invisible energy fields. Communications jammed in sporadic bursts, creating confusion and fear among the alien commanders. The Council had expected obedience. Instead, they faced anomalies they could not explain. Every move they made was countered, neutralized, or redirected, all without harming the planet or its inhabitants. Human strategists monitored the situation from secure facilities around the globe. Every energy pulse, every fluctuation, every alien response was recorded and analyzed in real time. The goal was not destruction. The goal was a lesson. Earth could defend itself, and those who underestimated it would learn restraint. Leaders spoke calmly, giving instructions with precision, their eyes fixed on screens that showed movements across space. Humanity's patience had turned into measured action. For the first time, some aliens began to understand that Earth was not what it seemed. They noticed that the humans did not act out of anger or pride. There was no desire for conquest, no aggressive declaration of power. What humans exhibited was control, intelligence, and a deep understanding of the consequences of every action. Yet, arrogance still blinded the Council's higher members. They assumed humans had gained some random advantage or secret weapon, unaware that this power had been cultivated and prepared for generations. On the surface, life remained calm. Cities glowed under the evening sky, oceans reflected the sun, and children laughed unaware of the massive fleet above. Ordinary people continued to work, to study, to care for each other. They remained human in every sense, while beneath their feet, the planet itself became a force of defense and warning. Scientists, engineers, and military strategists worked in seamless coordination, ensuring that Project Atlas remained fully controlled and targeted only at the intruders, never harming their own planet. As the first wave of alien ships entered, Earth's atmosphere and visible energy barriers slowed them. Engines faltered, navigation systems failed, and signals from the ships became sporadic. Confusion spread through the ranks of the fleet. They had faced many civilizations before, but none had shown such subtle yet overwhelming power. No destruction was visible to the naked eye, but the Council felt the pressure, the power, and the intelligence behind every movement. Humans had not fired a single shot, and yet they had demonstrated their ability to control the battlefield entirely. This awakening was a turning point. Humans could have chosen total retaliation, complete destruction of the fleet, and dominance over the galaxy, but they did not. Every action was measured to protect life while asserting control. This restraint was something alien civilizations had rarely witnessed. The Council had assumed that power without aggression was weakness. They were learning, too late, that patience and control could be far stronger than brute force. Throughout the world, Earth's leaders monitored every response, coordinating decisions across continents. They communicated silently through secure channels, their planning precise, their execution flawless. The planet's energy systems remained fully under human control, and the Council had no idea how deeply humanity had prepared. Every move they made to intimidate or coerce was anticipated, countered, and neutralized with perfect precision. Ordinary humans continued their lives, completely unaware of the scale of what was happening above. Farmers tended fields, workers commuted to factories, students studied late into the night. Every human on Earth was, unknowingly, protected by a force more powerful than any fleet in the galaxy. Humanity's strength had always been its ability to endure, adapt, and prepare, and now, in a moment of truth, it was revealed, not through aggression, but through controlled, calculated defense. The Council began to panic. Their arrogance was gone, replaced by uncertainty and fear. Ships that had once moved confidently now hesitated. Communications between commanders became frantic. Some proposed retreat, others demanded full retaliation, but fear had taken hold. For the first time, they realized that humans were not the naive, weak species they had once assumed. Humans had patience, intelligence, and strength beyond imagination, all coupled with restraint that made them far more dangerous than they appeared. In the control rooms beneath the Earth's surface, scientists and leaders monitored the response carefully. Every anomaly was tracked, every energy pulse measured. Humans communicated with one another calmly, their voices steady, their decisions deliberate. They did not gloat. They did not act out of emotion. They acted with clarity and purpose. Their goal was simple: protect life, assert boundaries, and send a message the galaxy could not ignore. The awakening of Project Atlas reached its peak as alien ships began to retreat. Engines sputtered, communications failed, and navigational systems malfunctioned. Some fleets turned away entirely, fleeing to regroup and report. The Council could no longer maintain the illusion that Earth was weak or harmless. The humans had acted without anger, without aggression, but with precision, control, and power that was undeniable. Despite the victory, humans remained humble. Life on the surface continued as normal. Children played, families gathered, and cities glowed under the night sky. Scientists returned to their labs, engineers checked systems, and leaders reviewed every decision. The planet itself, calm once more, pulsed quietly with energy that remained under human control. Humanity had demonstrated power, but also restraint, AI, combination that would leave a lasting impression across the galaxy. As the Council regrouped, debates raged among their members. Some acknowledged the lesson. Humans were patient, intelligent, and far stronger than they had believed. Others clung to arrogance, refusing to admit that they had underestimated Earth. Regardless, the galaxy had seen the first awakening of a power it could not yet comprehend. Humanity had acted not to dominate, not to destroy, but to protect. This restraint, this intelligence was the true measure of strength. Back on Earth, ordinary humans remained unaware. They continued to live, work, and love, trusting their leaders to protect them. They did not know the full extent of Project Atlas nor the lessons it had taught the galaxy. And yet, every human on Earth was part of this moment, protected by the intelligence, patience, and care of generations who had prepared. For this day, the awakening of Project Atlas had sent a clear message. Earth could no longer be underestimated. Humanity's patience had limits, and when provoked, the planet itself would rise to protect its people. The Council had learned something vital, though only partially. Power is not measured solely by aggression or force, but by the ability to control, endure, and act when necessary. In the quiet that followed, humans reflected on what had happened. They had not sought war. They had not sought revenge. Their goal had always been protection, survival, and the assertion of boundaries that the galaxy had long ignored. Life returned to a sense of normalcy, yet beneath the surface, Project Atlas remained ready. Humanity had awakened its power carefully, strategically and responsibly, leaving a lasting impression that would echo across the stars for years to come. And so, Earth returned to its peaceful rhythm. Cities glowed, children played, families thrived, and scientists continued their work. Yet the planet, patient and powerful, held a secret that the galaxy would never forget. The galaxy had never seen anything like what had just occurred around Earth. The Council's arrogance, once absolute, had been shaken by a force they could not control, a display of intelligence and patience they had never encountered. Humanity had acted not out of anger, not out of pride, but to protect life, to assert boundaries, and to send a warning the galaxy could not ignore. Now, the real reckoning began. The Council scrambled to respond. Delegations were sent, fleets repositioned, and alarms sounded across multiple star systems. Some members argued that Earth should be punished immediately, that humans had overstepped their bounds. Others warned of the consequences of retaliation, of what could happen if a species that could control energy on a planetary scale was provoked. Further, for the first time, debates within the Council were heated, frantic, and uncertain. Their arrogance had crumbled, replaced by fear and doubt. On Earth, the leaders remained calm. There was no celebration, no boasting. Humans had acted with precision, and they would continue to act with precision. Scientists monitored the energy systems beneath the planet, ensuring that every pulse, every current, and every signal remained controlled. Strategists observed the movements of alien fleets, calculating the outcomes of every possible scenario. And the people of Earth went about their lives as if nothing had changed, completely unaware of the cosmic tension that surrounded them. The Council's fleets began to retreat, not out of defeat, but out of caution. They realized, too late, that humans were not a species to underestimate. Ships that had once moved confidently now faltered. Communications became fragmented. Commanders whispered among themselves, questioning how a planet so small, so seemingly insignificant, could wield such power. Every retreating ship carried the same unspoken realization. Earth had patience, intelligence, and a force they could not match openly. Even as the fleets withdrew, the influence of humanity began to spread through the galaxy in unexpected ways. Other civilizations that had been quietly watching Earth began to take notice. They had assumed that the Council controlled everything, that the galaxy's rules were absolute. Now they saw a different reality. A small blue planet had risen, to protect itself not with aggression but with careful, calculated restraint. Humans became a symbol, a reminder that strength could take many forms. Inside Earth's control centers, leaders and scientists coordinated the next steps. They did not seek further conflict, but they knew that the galaxy needed a lesson that could not be ignored. Project Atlas remained fully active, its systems calibrated to respond instantly to any threat, yet always restrained to prevent unnecessary harm. Humans had the power to destroy fleets, to dominate the galaxy, but they chose restraint. This was humanity's greatest strength, the ability to wield power responsibly, with intelligence and care. Meanwhile, ordinary humans continued their lives, completely unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding above them. Families shared meals, children played in parks, and workers completed their tasks. Cities glowed softly at night, and oceans reflected the moonlight. The people of Earth trusted their leaders, not knowing that the leaders were quietly coordinating a balance of protection, patience, and strategic influence across the galaxy. The first clear message to the Council came through a display that was both subtle and undeniable. Satellite arrays, communication signals, and planetary energy systems were used to create a synchronized demonstration of Earth's capabilities. The Council watched in disbelief as every system moved with precision, countering their every maneuver, manipulating energy fields and controlling forces they could not even measure accurately. No destruction was caused, yet the message was clear. Earth could protect itself, and any attempt to control it would fail. For the first time, fear spread across the Council. Ships that had once been symbols of dominance now became liabilities. Delegates argued about next steps, but hesitation had replaced confidence. Some called for dialogue, admitting that humans had earned their respect. Others clung to old arrogance, insisting that humans could not possibly hold such power. But the galaxy was learning a lesson it could not ignore. Humans did not gloat. They did not seek revenge or conquest. Their actions were measured, deliberate, and fully aligned with the principle that life was to be protected. Project Atlas. The energy system beneath the planet continued to hum silently, ready to respond but never unnecessarily aggressive. Every pulse of energy, every calculated movement, was a demonstration of control. Humans had shown the galaxy that true power lies not in destruction, but in restraint and intelligence. News of Earth's demonstration spread quietly across the stars. Other civilizations began to reconsider their alliances, their loyalties, and their assumptions. They saw a species that had survived catastrophe, rebuilt itself, and now held power that could not be ignored. Humans became a symbol of endurance, patience, and strategic intelligence. Even civilizations that had once been subjugated by the Council began to hope that balance in the galaxy might finally be possible. Within Earth, life continued as normal. Scientists analyzed data, engineers maintained systems, and leaders prepared for any eventuality. The people of Earth, unaware of the cosmic tension, carried on with work, study, and family life. Their safety was ensured not by fear or aggression, but by the careful, intelligent planning of those who understood the true scope of humanity's capabilities. As the weeks passed, the galaxy slowly adjusted. The Council, humbled and cautious, began to negotiate. They no longer assumed that humans were weak or naive. Diplomatic channels reopened, but now with a tone of respect rather than arrogance. Humans responded with calm diplomacy, insisting on peaceful coexistence while maintaining the readiness to act if provoked. The balance had shifted. The galaxy had learned that patience, intelligence, and restraint were forces to be respected, not dismissed. Other civilizations began to look to Earth as a model. They saw that strength did not require domination, that intelligence could outweigh brute force, and that patience could be more powerful than aggression. Messages of cautious admiration began to circulate, and humans found themselves unexpectedly influencing decisions far beyond their planet. Humanity's actions had created ripples across the galaxy, reshaping perceptions and alliances in ways the Council had never anticipated. Despite these changes, Earth remained humble. The people continued to live ordinary lives, unaware of the influence they now held. Cities thrived, families gathered, and children laughed. Scientists and strategists continued to study and prepare, not for conquest, but for protection. The planet itself pulsed quietly, ready to respond to any future threat, but always guided by the principles of restraint, intelligence, and respect for life. The first reckoning had taught the galaxy a vital lesson. Humans had demonstrated that power alone is meaningless without wisdom, and that restraint is often more influential than aggression. The Council, once arrogant, had been forced to acknowledge a truth they had long ignored. Earth was not a planet to be controlled. It was a civilization to be respected. As life returned to its rhythm on the planet, Leaders reflected on the events that had unfolded. They understood that humanity had reached a turning point. The galaxy had seen their strength, but it had also seen their restraint. Humans had not sought war, but they had defended themselves with intelligence, patience, and precision. This combination had secured their place in the galaxy and ensured that their people, their planet, and their way of life would be respected for generations to come. Meanwhile, ordinary humans continued to live without knowledge of the cosmic drama. Farmers tended fields, teachers guided students, workers completed their daily tasks, and families shared quiet evenings. The people of Earth were safe because of the careful, strategic actions of those who understood the full scope of humanity's capabilities. The balance had been maintained, and life continued. Even as the galaxy adjusted, humans remained vigilant. Project Atlas continued to operate beneath the surface, monitoring energy flows, planetary stability, and potential threats. Scientists and strategists worked tirelessly, understanding that the galaxy's lesson was only the beginning. Humanity had demonstrated its power and restraint, but vigilance and preparation would always be necessary to protect life and maintain peace. The first reckoning was over, but the galaxy would never forget it. Stories of Earth's patience, intelligence, and controlled power spread slowly across the stars. Other civilizations began to reconsider their own strategies, realizing that strength must always be paired with wisdom. The Council, humbled and cautious, now approached Earth with respect, understanding that the days of arrogance and underestimation were gone forever. On the planet's surface, life continued in its ordinary human way. Cities glowed under the night sky. Oceans reflected the moon, and families gathered in homes filled with warmth. Children played, workers labored, and scientists studied, unaware of the cosmic shifts their planet had caused. Humanity had demonstrated power without aggression, intelligence without arrogance, and restraint without weakness. This combination would define the future of Earth and its place in the galaxy for generations to come. And so, the first reckoning ended. Humans had acted to protect their planet, to assert their boundaries, and to send a message that could not be eigen. The galaxy had changed forever. What had begun as subtle arrogance and impatience from the Council had evolved into a deep, undeniable respect for humanity. The first confrontation, the awakening of Project Atlas, and the careful, controlled response of Earth had sent a clear message. This planet and its people could not be underestimated. The galaxy had learned, through experience rather than warning, that patience, intelligence, and restraint were as powerful as any fleet, any weapon, or any empire. For humans, life continued as it always had. Cities thrived, oceans remained full of life, and people went about their daily routines. Children played freely, families shared meals, and teachers guided students in classrooms filled with curiosity and laughter. To the ordinary people of Earth, life seemed unchanged. They did not know of the cosmic currents swirling above them, nor of the fleets that had once threatened their planet. They trusted in their leaders, their scientists, and the systems carefully built to protect them. And that trust had been justified. Beneath the surface, Project Atlas remained vigilant. Its energy systems hummed quietly, constantly monitoring the planet and the surrounding space. Scientists and strategists worked tirelessly, not to prepare for war, but to ensure that Earth remained safe, that humanity's strength could be wielded responsibly if ever needed again. Every calculation, every simulation, and every adjustment was made with care. Humanity had proven its capability, but it also knew the value of preparation and foresight. The Council, once arrogant and dismissive, had been forced to confront the truth. Their fleets, their technology, and their authority had been challenged by a planet they had considered primitive. They had learned the cost of underestimating humans. Meetings were held, strategies debated, and new protocols established to ensure that Earth's power was respected. Some members of the Council advocated for alliance, recognizing that working with humans could strengthen the galaxy. Others remained cautious, still unsure how a planet could control such energy without aggression. Regardless, A shift had occurred. The galaxy would never view Earth the same way again. Other civilizations, quietly observing the events, began to understand the true nature of humanity. They saw a species that had endured wars, famine, and environmental challenges, yet emerged united, intelligent, and resilient. They had survived catastrophe not through overwhelming force, but through ingenuity, cooperation, and the ability to endure. To these civilizations, humans became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even a small, seemingly ordinary planet could wield extraordinary influence without seeking dominance. On Earth, leaders convened quietly to review the lessons learned. They understood that humanity had not only defended itself, but had also set a precedent for interstellar diplomacy. The galaxy had witnessed restraint, intelligence, and patience as forms of power. Humans had proven that one could achieve influence, not through fear but through careful action and the protection of life. Every decision, every measure taken during the crisis had been deliberate. There was no room for recklessness. Humanity's survival depended on wisdom as much as strength. In communities around the world, people began to feel subtle changes. Technology advanced more rapidly, communication networks improved, and scientific discoveries expanded human understanding. These advancements were guided not by ambition for conquest, but by the desire to improve life, protect the planet, and ensure that humanity could continue to thrive. Schools taught not only science and mathematics, but also cooperation, ethics, and understanding, lessons drawn from the experience of confronting the galaxy. Even the arts reflected the new awareness. Musicians composed symphonies inspired by the energy of the planet. Painters captured the vastness of the stars, and writers explored stories of resilience, patience, and intelligence. Humans had learned to value not only survival, but the ways in which survival could inspire growth, creativity, and unity. Every action, every innovation, and every story became part of a broader understanding. Humanity had power, yes, but it was guided by conscience. Project Atlas, now fully understood by its operators, became more than a defense system. It was a tool of preservation, intelligence, and balance. Scientists used its capabilities to monitor the environment, track potential threats, and study energy flows that could advance technology without causing harm. It was a reminder of the careful preparation that had allowed Earth to survive the first confrontation. Humanity had proven that knowledge, foresight, and patience could achieve what fleets and weapons alone could not. The Council, humbled by the experience, began to communicate with Earth differently. Instead of issuing orders or threats, they sought counsel and collaboration. Humans responded with calm diplomacy, maintaining their independence while offering guidance to those who would listen. The galaxy began to recognize that humanity's influence was not born of aggression, but of careful strategy, intelligence, and respect for life. The lesson of Earth became a guiding principle for interstellar relations. Power tempered with wisdom is stronger than unchecked force. For ordinary humans, life remained grounded. Children continued to play under the sun, families celebrated milestones, and communities supported one another. Yet, beneath the surface of normal life, humanity had changed. People now carried a sense of confidence, a quiet understanding that their planet and their civilization were stronger than most realized. There was no arrogance, no desire to dominate, but there was pride in knowing that Earth had earned its place in the galaxy, not by force but by preparation, patience, and intelligence. As years passed, Earth's example began to influence other civilizations more widely. Planets that had once relied on fleets and weapons to assert dominance began to study human methods. Careful preparation, intelligent restraint, and the prioritization of life. Diplomacy became more thoughtful, alliances were built on respect rather than fear, and conflicts were avoided when possible. Humanity's actions had created a ripple effect, spreading lessons across the galaxy without a single act of unnecessary violence. Leaders on Earth reflected on the journey. They remembered the subtle provocations, the first tests of their patience, and the moments when humanity's restraint had been the deciding factor. They understood that their greatest strength had not been technology alone, but the values that guided its use: intelligence, patience, and the protection of life. These principles became the foundation for Earth's future policies, scientific endeavors, and interactions with the galaxy. Even as peace settled over the stars, vigilance remained. Humans had learned that the galaxy could be unpredictable, and that patience alone would not guarantee safety. Project Atlas continued to operate, monitoring energy flows, potential threats, and environmental stability. Scientists and strategists remained alert, prepared to act if the balance was threatened again. Humanity had demonstrated its power responsibly, but wisdom dictated that preparation could never cease. Children who grew up during this era of transformation carried with them stories of resilience, intelligence, and patience. They learned that strength was measured not by aggression or dominance, but by the ability to endure, protect, and act wisely. These lessons shaped generations, instilling a culture of careful planning, thoughtful decision-making, and respect for life. Humanity's legacy was no longer defined only by survival, but by the way they had demonstrated power responsibly and ethically. The galaxy watched quietly. The Council, once arrogant, had been humbled, and other civilizations had begun to rethink their assumptions about strength, power, and diplomacy. Humanity's influence spread not through fear but through respect, curiosity, and example. The planet's people continued to thrive, unaware of the full extent of the lessons they had taught the stars. And yet, every human action, every innovation, every choice reflected the values that had guided them through the most critical moments in history. Even as technology advanced and civilizations communicated across the galaxy, Earth remained grounded. Cities thrived with clean energy, agriculture flourished, and communities supported each other. Scientists studied the cosmos not to dominate it, but to understand it. Artists celebrated life and the stars, musicians captured the harmony of the planet, and philosophers explored the meaning of wisdom and restraint. Humanity's story became not just a tale of survival, but of how intelligence, patience, and careful action could shape a better future for all. In quiet moments, leaders reflected on the journey. They remembered the subtle provocations, the challenges of the Council, and the awakening of Project Atlas. They understood that humanity's actions had not only protected the planet, but had also reshaped the galaxy's understanding of power. Strength without wisdom was dangerous. Patience without preparation was insufficient. But intelligence, guided by values and restraint, could achieve what no fleet or weapon alone could. The ordinary people of Earth, living their daily lives, were protected and empowered by the careful choices of their leaders and the planet's hidden systems. They were part of a civilization that had survived challenges no one else could have imagined, and yet they remained humble, grounded, and connected to one another. Humanity's legacy was built not on conquest, but on the ability to endure, protect, and guide the future responsibly. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Earth was no